Okay, so welcome everyone to this week's ZEF colloquium. Today we're going to have Jochen Duren present. Jochen, as most of you probably know, he's a senior researcher at ZEF. And as usual, we are recording the session. So if you don't want to be recorded, please feel free to keep your cameras off. So Jochen, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Georgie. Yeah, good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for this opportunity. So today we will talk about entomophagy. This is Greek. Entomon means insects and phagein means eating. So eating insects in Madagascar is our topic, and we asked some simple but not trivial questions. One is, is it relevant for food security? And the second, if yes, which factors then influence insect consumption? Of course, this is teamwork, so I want to mention and thank also my colleagues here at ZEF, Anne, Guido, Sarah, Sebastian, and Simone. And also in Madagascar, of course, from University of Antananarivo and from FOFIFA, there is Nante, Christian, Eri, and Narilala. Okay, just the brief overview. I will start by introducing rapidly our ProSynod project. Then talk a little bit about the context of entomophagy, then go on in the usual way of the research objectives until the conclusions. Okay, what are we doing in ProSynod project? Well, we are working in Madagascar and Myanmar. So it started in 2018. And this year we will finish our activities. And the main objectives of the project is, on the one hand, to explore the potential of edible insects for improved nutrition, establishing and improving safe processing techniques, and also introducing local insect species for rearing, and in general to promote the mini farming sector and also the commercial production and processing activities. So what we are doing is, on the one hand, we are doing research of local collection practices, of mini farming systems, of the already existing processing techniques, and also of the socio-economic context. For example, on gender, on institutions, value chains, and also on food behavior, where we today, I will present today. So also we wanted to identify suitable insect species for rearing and also their nutritional values. We want to develop production and processing techniques and also do capacity development and transfer our knowledge generated of these production and processing systems and also for the preservation and storage of insects. For example, here you can see a bakery, a rural bakery, where our colleagues did trials with insect flour with 10 or 20% into baguette. And then we also had some tastings of consumer acceptance. And this is one example of what we are doing. But today, we are focusing on the food behavior. And so just to give a brief background on entomophagy. I've seen there already in the 1970s, there were publications where insects have been proposed as a cheap solution to the world protein shortage. But in the last decades, this topic was a little bit forgotten. I mean, research went on, but it was not so much on the agenda, on the political agenda. But in the last years, I would say there has been a renewed interest on edible insects and its contribution to food and nutrition security. There was a publication of FAO in 2013, and where FAO acknowledged the significant role of insects for local diets, especially in times of food shortages. And of course also that insects, as we all know, are a healthy and sustainable, environmentally friendly protein alternative to meat. It needs much less resources to be produced, and has much lower CO2 emissions. So edible insects could be a solution for the future food security worldwide. So also there have been many studies that confirm that the quantitative as well as the qualitative protein composition of insects is very good. It's comparable or even superior to meat. And so this means that they can contribute to food security, and especially in areas where there's a tradition of entomophagy, for example, in Africa, also in Asia, where insects have been consumed for centuries. Okay, so just to give you some information on the protein content we also used for our study. Here you see on the left hand the beef, pork, and other meat, and also fish. And then on the right hand you see different types of insects, beetles, locusts, cricket, and silkworm. And you see they have, for 100 grams of edible parts, fresh weight, they have comparable or even superior protein content. So yet there are also research gaps. Even there is this FAO publication, but FAO itself says that the importance of insects for nutrition security cannot be estimated on a global scale, but mostly also not on national scales, because there are only few studies available. And this also is true for Madagascar. There are no statistics of insect consumption. And so we cannot know the real contribution of insects to food security. Moreover, we do not know much about the food behavior of consumers, especially in the rural areas. So what is influencing their decision to consume or not insects? So this would be also an important research gap to cover. So we are at the moment preparing 2 papers. I hope that the discussion today will give us even some more inputs for these papers before submitting. And the research objectives we are trying to achieve there is in the first paper actually to analyze how much entomophagy contributes to food and nutrition security, and also to investigate if insects really are a cheaper source of protein, and therefore perhaps also more consumed by the poorer population. The second paper is then trying to gain a better understanding of the insect consumption behavior among the rural population, and to examine different variables which might have an impact on insect consumption. Yeah, here's our study site. This is the highlands of Madagascar, the southern part of it. Here you can see the region, the Antomorphagi region, and there is the district, and within the district we have the rural commune of Sandrandahi. So yeah, we only focused on this commune, and yeah, the study site, it's in the highlands, as I said, up to 1,500 meters above sea level. Agriculture is the main activity, and rice the main staple crop. They have some other crops, but like maize and beans, and also some livestock, mainly pigs and chicken. But rice, the agriculture is mainly based on rice production. We have two seasons, the hot humid season and the cool and dry season, which also influences then the appearance of insects. And we see that it's a really poor region, widespread poverty, and also chronic malnutrition is widespread there. Here is the first photo I wanted to show you. Here, my colleagues, they have found something. We will see later on what they have found in the fields. Okay, our methods. We did a household survey in this commune. We know that there are more than 5,000 households in 38 villages. So we did a systematic cluster sampling with PPS. This means we have randomly chosen 12 out of the 38 villages, and the probability to be chosen was proportional to their size. And then in each of the 12 villages, we had households lists, and we randomly chose 18 households in each of the village. So we have a total of 216 interviews. We used a standardized questionnaire with these 5 items, mainly the socio-economic and agricultural activities and status, and then on insect harvesting, insect consumption, and on food frequencies. Here again, you cannot see so much. Perhaps this is the commune again, and you see the 12 villages we have randomly chosen. Here is in the middle is Sandrandahi. This is only, let's say, yeah, semi-urban community there, and then you see the yellow are the rice fields, and the green one is the forest. You see there's hardly any forest left, and the rest is savanna, bush savanna, or also tree savannas, also used for agricultural purposes. Good. Yeah, if we look at the literature, we find mainly these type of factors which can explain entomophagy. There are the socio-economic factors, individual consumer characteristics, also household and external factors, and product-related factors. So what we did, we made a hierarchical regression analysis to find out which of these factors might explain our dependent variable, which is per capita insect consumption in kilos. And this is so far was hardly done by any previous research. Okay, here you can see the type of factors and the variables. For example, here in the product-related attitudes, we had questions. We asked the people if they think that insects are nutritious food, if they are easy to prepare, it means convenient food, if they have concerns about the cleanliness of insects, if they think that they bring health benefits, and also if they have if they are concerned about the environmental impact of their food choices. So these were these like attitudinal questions we asked. if they agree or do not agree on these questions. And in the end, we added one more type of factors, which we called harvesting related. And here we had two things, the land size and the harvesting time. Why did we do this? Because as we will see, insects are harvested mainly in the wild. So yeah, then in the fields. So bigger size of land could lead to more opportunities to harvest insects, and more time dedicated to harvesting might also increase harvesting amounts and therefore consumption amounts. Yeah, here you see what our colleagues have found. The woanguri, this is the main insect consumed in the area as an adult, in the adult stage. So there are other insects, but the main species is these adult beetles from the family of Melodontinae and also Scarabeidae. There are also some locusts, some silkworm and others, but this is like 2/3 of all consumption are these woanguri. They include different species, but the people call them all woanguri. So what we have seen here is entomophagy is widespread. 95% of people eat insects, but mainly seasonal, meaning 1 to 3 months per year. This comes mostly from wild harvesting and is mostly done for home consumption. Collection is mainly done by children. It's also interesting. 68% of harvesting time is done by children. And insects are hardly bought nor sold. As you see, the quantities are really very low. So we also asked people if they would like to collect more insects, and they said yes. But they cannot because the possibilities are very limited. And also more than 80% of households stated that they perceived a diminishing trend of harvesting in the last 5 to 10 years. However, the consumption amount on average is 9 kilo per year and household, or 1.7 kilo per capita. So then the question of insects as an animal protein source. Here you see the average intake. You see insects contribute 18% of total animal intake, protein intake, and it's yeah, it's comparable to pork and beef, a little bit less than dried fish. Then we looked at the seasonality. Here you see the different sources of meat and fish, and also in green is insects. So you see the seasonality at the end of the year in the starting dry season, and you see also that yeah, when other animal sources are going down here, then insects are coming in, and they even overcompensate the lower consumption mainly of fish in these months, so that the total consumption here is higher than in any other months, thanks to insects. So then we looked at the prices at the market, and here you have, and we calculated the cost of 100 grams of protein of the different sources. Here you see that beef, pork, and mainly fish are relatively expensive compared here to beetles and silkworm, which are much cheaper, even a little bit more expensive than the plant-based protein sources, but in comparison to other animal sources, it's a cheaper protein source. So then we thought, okay, if this is a cheaper protein source, then perhaps the poorer population might consume more of them if they have no access to meat and fish, though they might eat more insects to compensate. Oh, sorry. Before continuing, I forgot. This is, as we said, this was calculated by market prices. And now, if we think that insects are mainly harvested in the wild, then market prices are perhaps not so important. So we try to calculate an opportunity cost, assuming that per hour we have an opportunity cost of the minimum agricultural wage. And then we have seen that, if you then calculate the cost of 1 kilo of insects or of 100 grams of protein, we come to a more or less similar result. Here you see 2,250 ariary, which is more or less the same as here you have with the beetles. So the opportunity cost would be more or less the same. Nevertheless, if we remember that this is mainly, harvesting is mainly done by children, then the opportunity cost might be even lower. Okay, then again, the question of the poorer population, we had as a proxy the cash income. And if you look here, cash income is strongly correlated with meat and fish consumption, but not with insect consumption. And so, yeah, this means the richer people do not eat more or less insects. So, and also it seems that meat and fish and insects are not really a substitute. And there's also not really a significant correlation. So then we just tried to find other variables, and we tried it with the hours harvested variables. So we see this is highly correlated with insect consumption. So hours harvested might then also be influenced by labor availability. So we looked at household size, and this is also significantly correlated. But if we look at insect consumption and household size, then there is no correlation. So now then we wanted to have a deeper insight in which other factors might influence insect consumption. And so we had these 5 models. This is a hierarchical multiple linear regression analysis. So we had in the first model, we only had the socio-economic variables included, then additional the individual consumer characteristics, and so on. And in the last model, we included also the harvesting related factors, which have not been included in any other studies. And then we looked for the regression model with the highest fit. And if you look here at the 5 models, only the last model becomes significant and also has the highest R square. So, okay, this means only if we include harvesting time, then the model becomes significant. But we only have 3 variables with significant p-values, which is household size, health benefits, and harvesting time. And we have seen that household size is negatively correlated, health benefits positively, and also harvesting time, of course, positively. However, if you look at the confidence intervals, here, for example, they are relatively wide. Also for the health benefits, and here you see they are just close to 0. So, and also if we look at the eta squared, we see that harvesting time explains most of our regression results. And this leads us to three questions, how to interpret these results. The first question would be, why is a single variable so important in our case study? Or second, why do the other variables fail to explain insect consumption? And then which other factors might explain insect consumption? So our explanations would be, of course, the first is clear that as most insects are harvested and not bought, so if you dedicate more time to harvesting, then you have more amounts available for consumption. This is relatively simple. But why do other factors do not influence? This is a little bit more complicated. Our explanation would be that in these really poor areas and where proteins are scarce and nearly everybody eats insects, then this is independent of any socio-economic, socio-cultural or attitudinal factor. So one could also say that insects are nearly such a thing as a free meal, which economists normally say that there is no such thing as a free meal, but in this case it might be. And also in comparison to other studies, they did not explain consumption amounts. So this is perhaps also because our study is a little bit different. So this might also explain why we have different variables that are significant or not. And then we were thinking, if it's harvesting time is the most important variable, what influences harvesting time? No? And we have seen that it's mainly children that do the harvesting. So then this, of course, complicates a little bit, because then it might be also the skills of, or also the willingness of children to collect insects, and to bring them home for household consumption. So here, of course, we have no information, and but this might also explain the wide range of consumption amounts, that some children collect much more than others. So but this is we have no information. This leads us to the limitations of our study. Of course, we had a small sample size and only covered one commune, meaning we cannot extrapolate our results to other rural areas in the highlands. So, and of course, it's always difficult to get data on food consumption for one whole year. And even more if the harvesting is done by children. And of course, we did not ask children about harvesting amounts. So this is another limitation, I would say. Moreover, if we look at these product-related factors, the attitudes of the consumers, we ask normally the household head, but our dependent variable is the household, is the unit of our research. So there's a little bit mismatch between that we only ask one consumer, but then we try to explain the whole household consumption amounts. We also ask only one question per variable, not more, which is normally done. And we also had a 3 answer category instead of the usual 5-point Likert scales. Good, then I come to the conclusions. I think we can conclude that insects contribute to food security, especially to protein intake in regions where malnutrition dominates and animal proteins are rather limited. In poor rural areas where entomophagy is a tradition and widespread, and other factors do not play a significant role for explaining the consumption. And we have also seen that consumption amounts are related to seasonality or limited to seasonality, and also threatened by overexploitation and change of habitat. As I said, there's a lot of deforestation, or have been a lot of deforestation in the region. So this also, might have an impact on the availability of insects. But we have also seen there's a lot of interest from the local population to start rearing or to increase also consumption of insects, not only for food, but also for feed, for example, for chicken feed. We try to do this in our project to improve nutrition and strengthen the tradition of entomophagy by, for example, constructing these tiny houses, which are rearing facilities. Our colleagues in Madagascar, they built 9 of them already. And here you see the cricket production starting. We also do black soldier fly production. In the next months, we will see how is it going, and if this is a promising start to increase insect production and consumption. Yeah, thank you very much, and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Jochen. Very interesting study. Well, now we can open to questions and comments from the audience. Please, you can raise your blue hand and I call you, or you can also just write your question or comment in the chat and I will read it out loud. Please, you can start, and maybe I can go with the first question, because Jochen, you mentioned when you showed your descriptive statistics that quite a substantial number of households would like to increase the amount of insects harvested, right? Yeah. And of course, since it's a very labor intensive product to harvest, I imagine this is the main constraint. But do you see any options for them to increase harvest? Is there even any sort of technology that could be used to improve harvesting of insects? How do you see that?
Well, first of all, as I said, if it's mainly children, they normally have no special techniques. They just catch it and to put it in a bottle or something like that, or in a bag with water. So I'm not sure if these are mainly these adult beetles, that they could be better techniques. I think they have already found more or less and it's not so difficult to catch them. No? Of course, the constraint is on the one hand the labor availability. It's mainly children and also some women who do this. But I'm not sure if we should go for this, because as I said, overexploitation is also a problem. So okay, we have no specific information on which species is maybe already overexploited or not. But I would not go for this and leave it as it is, like it's a traditional system, and I'm not sure if we should really promote more harvesting. We go for the other side, to rearing and to do it in a more rational way.
Okay, thank you. So we see 2 hands up. First, David, please.
Hello, David in Myanmar. Thanks, Jochen, for the presentation. 2 questions that are probably interrelated, but might not be. I'm wondering if we have any insight into what the incentives for children for collection are, is the first part. And then I guess the second part is with assessment of the protein intake on a household level, do we have any picture at all of whether, in fact, children got extra access to protein as a result of their own harvesting efforts, or whether all protein was averaged across the family? So questions on incentives and whether protein for the children themselves was an incentive for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David. Very good questions, and I'm really sorry that I cannot answer them, because this would be a very interesting second research. As beforehand, we did not know that it's mainly children, so we could not make we did not make any effort to have a look at this specific collection and also perhaps consumption group of between. I mean, so what we heard always that, okay, the children, they like to play with insects. For them, it's like also like playing around, and they enjoy it. So we do not know if for example, their father or mother, they are told to go into the fields, or is it, this would be really an interesting research, but I cannot say. And also we did not differentiate the consumption within the household, so we do not know if children eat more or less insects than other household members. So this is also would be really interesting, but we have no data on this.
Thank you.
Well, next one I have here, Francis. You are muted. Francis, we still cannot hear you.
Hello. Yeah.
Now we hear you.
Okay. Thanks so much. Sorry that the camera is a little bit blurred. Thanks for the presentation. I had two questions. The first question is, I don't know if your research also could investigate, perhaps maybe in the future, on maybe something quantitative in terms of maybe the well-being of those households or people who consume them, as compared to people who do not consume them, the insects. That's one. And then secondly, you also raised the point that the harvesting of these insects from the wild was mostly done by children. I don't know if it was because some insects are more abundant at night than in the day, what impact it could have maybe on another activity like the schooling of the children, if it's an activity that takes place in the day. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Francis. If I understood right, you want that we compare the consumers with the non-consumers, right?
Yes.
So we tried to do this, but in the end, as we have 95% of consumers, and only 5% of non-consumers, the comparison is a little bit difficult with the because in the end we only have 12 non-consumers. So then the statistical comparisons become a little bit difficult. But we have seen no special reasons why people do not. If we looked at different also answers from, I mean, there are some reasons, really special reasons why they do not consume. For example, they are allergic to insects, or they are old and cannot harvest anymore and have no one who collects for them. So these are some special reasons, or they just do not like it. Yeah, they just do not like it. This is also some people just do not like it. But more statistical analysis was not so fruitful, let's say. About the schooling, if I remember, at least these Woanguri, they fly in the morning and in the evening. So might be, I'm not sure if this is before schooling or after school time. And so, yeah, I'm not sure if this is affecting school attendance. I hope not. But of course, also interesting, would be interesting to know more about this. Yeah.
Thanks, Johan. So Denise, please.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Johan, for your presentation. I have two questions. The first one is referred to the experience on insect rearing. If you have a successful experience that you can share with us, and what would be the obstacles that this kind of rearing, not people should face in this kind of collecting insects or rearing insects, actually, no? And my second question has to do with the gender dimensions of your project, because you mentioned that it was one of the objectives or one of the dimensions you want to see here, but it didn't come so clear in your results. And is there any difference with female-headed households in the results, or how was this dimension included in your project?
And if I can add to Denise's question, also, did you see any difference between if boys or girls are the ones who are harvesting these insects? Did they give you any information of who exactly is doing the harvesting?
Girls and boys, we did not ask, actually. So yeah, there we do not know. Because I mean, just to mention, this is not an excuse, but our interviews, they lasted between 90 minutes and 2 hours, and some up to 3 hours. So we had to limit some of the questions a little bit. Yeah, we had, okay, the female-headed household, we had as one variable, as you have seen, Denise. It was not significant in the regression analysis. If we look at the descriptives, I just have a look. This is female-headed household is a little bit less the consumption than male-headed households. It's not so much the difference, and we also had only 22 female-headed households from the only 10%. No? And so, but yeah, perhaps also the number is too small to give conclusive results here. We also had, I mean, this was not the gender dimension. Dimension I mentioned was other research also, specific research, not especially here this household survey. Yeah, exactly. As for the rearing, yeah, I mean, we just started this. It's because of the pandemic. Everything was delayed. We just started it. So we will see if what are the obstacles, if people can do it. I mean, we are advising them on if there are any problems also, and the colleagues are there. Our main concern was because of the highlands, that in the temperature at night will be too low in the cool season. This is why we built these houses, these brick houses, that we hope that we can control and regulate the temperature and also the humidity better. But yeah, I cannot give you already the first results, perhaps in some weeks or months.
Thank you. Well, I have here a question in the chat from Ruth. So she's saying that, of course, we know that your study was limited to that particular commune, but she asks if from the general experience from the team, if the results were as you expected at first, and if these results appear to be typical of the wider region. And she would also like to know, and this is the main question, if you tried the local beetles and how did they taste like?
Okay, I tried a lot of insects in Myanmar, but in Madagascar, this was not the season. So then I could not taste them. And but I would like to. Yeah, if it's typical, I think for the highlands, it might really typical. There are other studies which have, at least if you come to the species, they have found similar species in other areas of the highlands. Nevertheless, for example, in the highlands, we also have these, there are still some forests preserved, the tapia forests, and they are the habitat of wild silkworms. So there the wild silkworm collection and consumption is much more prominent, or it was not existent in our region. So if you go like 80 kilometers more to the north, there are the tapia forests, and there it's totally different. The people can make a lot of money, and also they have a lot of proteins from the wild silkworm. So there it's really different. So yeah, but I think if you go the next communes, maybe it's not so different. Yeah, if it was expected as we, well, this is a rather question to my colleagues in Madagascar, perhaps someone wants to answer. I'm not sure if did not see the list of all. Nante is there, and also perhaps Narilala. But yeah, I mean, we did a pre-study where we already have seen that this was mainly wild collection, that there's in value chains is not much happening. This is in the market you cannot find many insects, so it's really for subsistence. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, Eliana had a question, but now you lower your hand, so I don't know if you still would like to ask something. If you do, then please you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I first thank you for the presentation. I think the relevance of your research is evident, but I was wondering if you how do you see the consequences of your findings, or in terms of policy making, or maybe spreading the consumption of edible insects? I understand that it's quite common, and you said there is a clear group. I think the consumption is well accepted among the poor, even in Madagascar, if I understood well your findings. But maybe it might be harder to incorporate that into the diets of people of the richer or the upper classes, and not only in Madagascar, maybe in other countries. So just wondering if you thought about that. And it's okay if you haven't, but.
Okay, thanks, Eliana. Yeah, of course, we also have one element of our project is policy dialogue, and so I think in Madagascar, they, for example, the National Office of Nutrition is really open to insects and to include this in their strategy, or it was already included, and so we are in contact with them, and I think, yeah, there is. We do not need to do too much work on to make sure that this will be considered. However, of course, the question is who can take over afterwards, after the project ends. Is this, to make it sustainable, if there is enough political will that can then take over and continue with these rearing activities. I mean, we are trying also to reach the market, as you have seen in the picture that, for example, in this bakery, this is in the town, where there is a lot of consumers, so that this baguette with insect flour, this could then be a really good outlet for the insect production and also processing. I think that there are different consumers in urban consumers also in Madagascar who are not so much familiar with Antomorphagi, and so there you then might also, like in the Western countries, might to introduce like insects in a different form, like as I said, with, for example, with snacks or included in baguette, and so that then there you have more possibilities to market. But of course, the production is really small still, and this is not the main problem at the moment. But yeah, of course, we want also to reach the urban consumer.
Thank you, Johan. Well, I don't see any other hands, but there was a comment here in the chat from Arnold Musungu. He says that he's implementing a very similar project in Nairobi, in Kenya, and that he has some interesting results. So, Arnold, if you would like to say to what extent is your results are similar to what Johan presented, please feel free to do so. But also, Johan, I have another question. So when we talk about insects, especially in industrial production, right? So not really harvesting. To what extent is this market currently developed there in the local context? And do you see some good opportunities, for example, employment generation in rural areas, if we were to promote a more industrial production of insects?
Okay, yeah, of course. And on the global scale, a lot is going on. As you might know, that in the EU, the novel food legislation, there is now the insects can be considered as and registered as novel food. So I think this will be give a big push also for many companies here that there are many startups and also already some bigger companies producing, still mainly for the feed sector, but and I think nevertheless for the Western countries, well, this will continue to be a niche market. And so, I mean, for example, in Thailand is a world leader in cricket production, there are more than 20,000 farmers producing crickets. So yeah, this is really an important sector there already, and generating income and jobs. So Thailand perhaps might then also export much more to the EU, and this might then yeah, give an incentive to expand the sector even more in Thailand. In most other countries in Asia, Africa, I think it's still the local markets which are yeah, which are big enough that can be reached, and so, and there, I think even with small scale production and processing, there is yeah, a lot of potential for income generation also, yeah. Because if you look at the prices, they are not so bad. For some insect species, they are equal to meat. In our, okay, there was, we said it was a cheaper alternative per protein, but if you look at the prices, they are sometimes even they are comparable to meat and fish.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone has any last questions for Jochen or comments? Andre.
Thank you for the presentation. I have just a quick question to you. How about some sort of industrialization push, or making the production of insects at a more large scale? You mentioned at some point using insects for feed, for example. That could be a good potential demand for it, much more maybe than consumption. But would you see, not only Madagascar, then I'm going a bit beyond, do you think there is any prospect of sort of like an agro-industrial push for a more massive production instead of just collection of insects?
I mean, there is a lot of industries in Western countries. If you look at the Netherlands, for example, there are already big insect farms. So, and this is automatized production system, highly sophisticated. But of course, this is not what we are looking for in our project. So there is yeah, small scale. We have to think about, as I said, the conditions of, for example, the climate, temperature, humidity. Also, the feed for the insects is sometimes can be a problem. Now you have to feed them. Yeah, and but yeah, I think it can be highly productive, even on a small scale. I'm not sure if there are so much economies of scale you can really. I mean, for the Western, perhaps there is a lot of economies of scale, but if you do it in a rather simple way, then this might not be so much so important for the producers. So I think the small units can be highly productive, and so yeah, this is the automatized, the sophisticated system is only for the Western countries with high labor costs and so on.
Okay, thank you. Well, we already ran out of time, so I saw that Oliver, you had a question, but maybe you can reach out directly to Jochen. So thank you, Jochen, again for presenting. Very interesting, and thank you all for joining today and for your questions and comments. And hope to see you all next week for the next colloquium. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.